I'm going to be answering some of your toughest KDP questions, and in this video we're going to be talking about book covers, Amazon ads, AI, and how to actually use it correctly, because a lot of people are using it completely wrong, and low content versus high content books. Oh, I also got a brand new one of these, so it's going to be a very, very good video. Okay, let's see the first question. How are you profitable with a 68% ACoS? Genuinely curious. That's actually a really, really good question, because a lot of people think ACoS equals profitability, and the lower the ACoS, the more profitable you are. But most of the time, that's not actually correct. I'm going to show you why. So here's the thing. You start off your book, and then this is what it actually looks like. So you get some sales. Let's say this is right at the start, this is launch, and then this is month 1, this is month 2, and this is month 3. You gain some sales, and you gain a few more sales because Amazon built up the data from before, and then you gain even more sales. These are your PPC sales. Now here's what happens to organic sales. Now with organic sales, right at the launch, you're not gonna have any. By the end of month 1, 90% of your sales are gonna be PPC. So this organic one will be up here. So then this is what it would look like for organic sales. The black one is organic, the blue one is PPC. In month 2, because you already have some previous sales data, organic is gonna grow a little bit. So this is going to look like that. And then in month 3, if you do everything correctly, then you're going to grow even more. And this is what it's going to look like. So at the start, the difference between organic and PPC is very, very, very small. And then as you grow and as you build up data and you make the adjustments needed, the organic to PPC ratio actually increases, which means you can afford a higher ACoS and still be profitable. Let me explain it in a simpler way. So let's say every dark circle I draw is a PPC sale. So you don't really have many options. One of your options is for every one PPC sale you get, it results in one organic sale, because PPC and organic work together. If you get 100 PPC sales, Amazon doesn't see it as PPC and organic sales. It just sees it as sales. So if Amazon sees 100 PPC sales, it's going to say, oh, this book made 100 sales. It must be good. Let's keep pushing it. And then it starts pushing you even more organically, more and more, as long as you're doing the PPC correctly. But anyway, if you get one PPC sale, that can give you one organic sale. Now, if you do it even better and you actually know what you're doing, one PPC sale can give you 2 organic sales, which is obviously even better. Then you can reach this position where one PPC sale will bring you 3 organic sales. Now, here's the thing. If we're making $5 profit for every book we sell, that means if this is what the back end of our business looks like, that means we make $5 for the PPC sale and $5 for the organic sale. So 5 plus 5 equals $10 in total. So if this is what our book looks like, if for every PPC sale we get an organic sale, we must spend less than $10 in ads to be profitable. If we spend $9 in ads, great. We make $1 profit every time we get a PPC sale. This is not just looking at ads. This is looking at the entire business, because that's how you should look at it. You don't want to separate your ads with your business. All the inexperienced publishers will only look at the PPC and focus on the PPC only and just forget the organic, but they work together. Now, if you're here, then you make $5 for the PPC sale, but you make $10 for organic. So you make 5 plus 10, which is 15. So now you can afford to spend under $15 for every one PPC sale to be profitable. If you still spend the $9, but this is what your book looks like, great. Now you're making $6 profit for every $9 you spend. Every $5 you make on PPC, you make $15 back with organic. Because for every one PPC sale, you get 3 organic sales. Because you're giving Amazon the data and blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of other things. I made another video for that, but this is what you want it to look like. So you make 5 on PPC and then 15 organic, which means you make $20. So now if you spend that same $9 that you spent for this one over here, then you're making $11 profit for every $9 you spend. Now, how am I able to afford a really high ACoS and still make profit? Well, here's how I do it. So if you're just looking at your PPC, then let's say this square is your entire sales and half of your sales are PPC and then the other half are organic. So this part here is organic and this part here that's shaded in is PPC. Let's say this gives you a 30% ACoS and this is your break even. So your ads are profitable or break even. And then you're just collecting all this money from the organic. Well, what I do is this. I spend a little bit more on PPC. So instead of me spending here, where it will be my break even, I spend a little bit more right here. And all of this is my PPC. And this might give me a 60% ACoS because I'm actually losing money on PPC. But what that does is it gives me even more organic growth. So while you're over here with a break even ACoS, making 100 copies, 100 organic copies, selling 100 organic copies because of your 30% ACoS, I'm over here with a much higher ACoS, selling 250 organic copies. So I'm making more money because the organic growth is much larger than your organic growth, because you're not willing to spend money or lose money on ads in order to grow your organic. Now, this is for experienced publishers. I don't recommend any brand new publisher to start just spending more money on ads, hoping that their organic growth is going to increase. But this is how I'm able to afford a higher ACoS. I hope that makes sense. Second question. Hi, Barry. How many sales does a 20K BSR book do per month approximately? Super simple to answer. You're going to go on something called Google. This is a search engine. If you go on your computer, click on Google Chrome or Safari or whatever you're using, go on Google and type in ABSR calculator. If you want to be super specific, you can type in KDP ABSR calculator. And that's going to give you a bunch of results. You can click on any one of them. I would recommend the Kindlepreneur one because that guy's a G. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your competitor's ABSR or whoever's ABSR, you want to figure out how many copies they're selling a day. You're going to take that guy's ABSR, that publisher's ABSR. You're going to put it in that calculator. So let's say it's 10,000 ABSR. You're going to put that in. It's going to ask you for the marketplace, which means which Amazon is he selling on? Is it .com? Is it .uk? Is it .canada? Is it the Japanese one? Whatever marketplace, you want to figure out how many copies they're selling. And then you also want to pick your format. Is he selling the ebook or the paperback? That obviously depends on the ABSR that you got. Once you put your ABSR, you put your marketplace, and you put your format, it's going to give you exactly how many copies he's selling a day. Maybe not exactly, it's a rough number because this always fluctuates, but it's going to give you a very good answer as to how many copies they're selling a day. And you can literally do this for any book on Amazon. Next question. It's way harder to sell a $7.99 book versus a $16.99. Your comparison is a bit misleading just to make your point. Okay, completely agree with you. I can't remember what I talked about in the video, but I'm guessing I might have said some things that weren't correct. So let me just clarify as best as possible right now. It's not harder to sell, but it's harder to make money. I hope that makes sense. So selling a $7.99 book, it might be a coloring book. If there's someone wanting a coloring book and I go to them and I say, hey, do you want to buy this coloring book for $7.99? They're probably going to say yes. If I go to them and say, hey, do you want to buy this gardening book for $20? They're going to say no because they're looking for a coloring book. So it's not harder to sell. If you find the right people, they're going to buy your book anyway. But it's harder to make money with a $7.99 book than it is a $16.99 book. And I can hear all the low content people screaming at me now, but it's okay. Listen to this. You're selling something for $7.99. Okay, I'm selling something for $16.99. I want to make it as simple as possible. You have 100 black and white pages. I have 100 black and white pages. The pages are no different. Let's say we both also have an 8x10 trim size. This is an A, it's supposed to be an A. So if we have the same book, how much profit are you making? Right here, you're making $1.95, but just for easy maths, let's make it $2. You're making $2 profit for every sale. Well done to you. How much am I making here? I'm making 7 something, but I'm going to keep it 7 for simple maths. Great. So what am I doing? I'm making 3 times more profit than you. It's actually more than 3 because 3 times 2 is 6. But just for easy maths, I'm making 3 times more profit than you. So what does this actually mean? And by the way, I know a bunch of you are going to say, oh, but I'm selling coloring books. I'm not going to have 100 pages. I'm going to have 50 pages. Well, even if you have 50 pages, the profit doesn't change. So if you're selling a coloring book giving you $2 profit and I'm selling a high content book giving me $7 profit, I need to sell 3 times less copies than you to make the same amount of money. Now, is it easier or harder to sell 3 times more copies? It's way harder. And I'm going to show you why it's way harder. If we both want to make $1,000 profit per month, because obviously who wouldn't want to make $1,000 profit? That's a nice extra income, especially from one book. If I'm making $7 profit for every sale, I need to sell 142 copies, which is roughly 5 copies a day. But you published a low content book because you want to make less money and work harder, which makes 0 sense to me, which means you have to sell 500 copies in a month for you to make the same amount of money as me, which means you're selling roughly 14 copies a day. So is it easier to sell 5 copies a day or 14 copies a day? To me, it's easier to sell 5 copies a day. To you, maybe you love low content so much and you believe it's going to make you a millionaire, so 14 copies is worth it for you. I don't know. That's you. I prefer to work less and make more. Now, for everyone that understands ABSRs, for me to sell 5 copies a day, that means my ABSR needs to be around 40,000. 40,000 is a very average ABSR. Now, if you're selling the low content book and you still want to make $1,000 worth of book, but you're selling 14 copies a day, that means you need to reach 8,000 ABSR, which is way, way, way harder than 40,000 ABSR. To me, it might be super easy to you. I don't know. You might be a publishing expert. You might be a guru or whatever. But to me, 40,000 is much easier than 8,000. Selling 5 copies a day to make $1,000 is easier than selling 14 copies a day to make $1,000. But the best part is, if you're making $2 profit, you have $2 leverage to spend on ads. Whatever we talked about earlier, the first question I answered with the organic and the PPC, if you have $2 to spend, you don't have a lot of leverage. I have 3 times more leverage than you to spend on ads. And my book, even though it's at 60% ACoS and still making profit, is making over $1,000 a month in net profit. That means I put this in my pocket and I can go do whatever I want with it. Go buy a bunch of margaritas, sit on the beach, think about all the people still publishing low content books. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make fun of you guys. I just want you to wake up a little bit, because this is so much easier than this. This is a good starting point, but I don't think this is what's gonna make you money and make you quit your job and live your life and go travel places. This, much easier for you to do it. Let's go to the next question. Yeah, this new one is terrible. I should have stuck with the old one. What if we ask about book cover design from ChatGPT? Will it work? Of course it's gonna work. ChatGPT will give you anything you ask it to give you. But here's the important part that everyone skips. It's not about ChatGPT doing its job. It's about you doing your job. If I take a piece of chicken, this is supposed to be a chicken, and I put this piece of chicken inside a microwave, this is supposed to be a microwave, and I heat it for 10 minutes, is it gonna spit out an ice cream? Obviously not. It's never gonna spit out an ice cream. It's just gonna spit out a warmer piece of chicken, a more dried up piece of chicken. No one wants dried chicken. So if I want the microwave to spit out an ice cream, what do I have to do? I have to give an ice cream in the microwave. That's such a bad example as well. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is whatever you give ChatGPT, that's what it's going to give you. So it's not about ChatGPT giving you the best book cover in the world. It's about you giving ChatGPT the correct commands, asking the right questions. So let's say you want a book cover for a Greek cookbook. If you go on ChatGPT and you're like, ChatGPT, make me a cover for a Greek cookbook, and that's your command, which is the most basic command. If ChatGPT comes back to you and gives you a very, very bad book cover, it's not ChatGPT's fault. It's completely your fault. You gave it a basic command, so it's going to give you a basic book cover. So how do you actually use AI effectively to make book covers? Well, guess what? It's not going to make the book cover for you. It's going to give you ideas. It's going to give you information that you can implement to make the book cover. But you should definitely do it yourself. Don't get one AI image, because then you can't play around with it. You can't mess around with it. You can't make it more professional. You can't make it look good. If you don't understand design, you don't know what to ask ChatGPT. I hope that makes sense. Let me show you what I would say. The first thing I would do is, I know that colors are super important. So I'm going to say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm making a Greek cookbook for women over 40. What colors do you think are going to be most appropriate for that book cover? And then ChatGPT is going to come and say, oh, well, based on the age and the gender and the niche of your book, I think these colors will work well together. And if you don't like these, maybe these colors will work well together. And then ChatGPT will say, hey, maybe white and blue is probably your best option. Great. Now what am I going to say? Okay, can you give me some hex codes? ChatGPT is now going to say, okay, here are some good hex codes that you can use. That's one for the white, one for the blue. And now you know the colors to use. But then it's not just about the colors. Then what I'm going to do is ask, okay, well, now I have the colors. What about the fonts? What fonts do you think are going to be most appropriate for a Greek cookbook? And then ChatGPT is going to say, oh, okay, based on your audience and the niche, here are some fonts that give you a Greek feeling and would look good for a cookbook. And then ChatGPT is going to give you a bunch of fonts. You're going to go online, look at all the fonts, test them all out with your book cover, and then you're going to see which one works the best. And then you're going to say, great, I have a font for my title, but what about my subtitle? What font should I use for my subtitle? Because me, as a designer, I know that my subtitle needs to be readable. I can't use the same Greek font that I used on here for my subtitle, because my subtitle is going to be smaller, it's going to be harder to read, so I need a more easy to read font. So I'm going to say, hey, what should I use for my subtitle? And then ChatGPT is going to say, okay, well, because your subtitle needs to be more readable, you can use these serif fonts, or if you want a more mature feeling book, you can use these or the serif fonts. Sans serif is for a less mature book. But you can test out the fonts that it's going to give you for the subtitle, and then you can figure it out. And then you're going to say, oh, by the way, this is a Greek cookbook, and I need to obviously display some dishes on the book cover. I don't know anything about Greek cooking. Please, ChatGPT, what dishes should I display on the book cover? And then ChatGPT is going to go and say, okay, well, we have this and this and this. And then you're going to take those 3 dishes that ChatGPT gives you, and you're going to go online and find some images that look good that you could put on your book cover. And now you know that the dishes match with the niche. When someone sees it, they're like, oh, that's a Greek dish, even though you know nothing about Greek dishes. And then you're going to say, okay, well, I have the fonts and I have the correct colors and I have a good readable subtitle and I have the correct dishes. Are there anything else that I can add? Are there any extra elements that I can add to the cover to amplify it, to make it look even better? And then ChatGPT is going to come back and say, oh, you know what would look good if you add some olives. Olives are traditional Greek things. You can add some olives in the background. Maybe you can add some Greek patterns in the background. Maybe you can add some dividers, some Greek dividers. If you don't know what dividers are, they're like little lines that separate your title with your subtitle. Always looks good on a book cover. It can tell you, hey, you know what? One of the traditional things is olive trees. You can add these in the background. So you can add an olive tree coming out from the background, maybe overlapping your book title. You can do a bunch of different things. But ChatGPT is not going to give you your book cover. You're not going to type in 5 words and get the best book cover in the world. You are the person running the business. It's all up to you. But if you're going to go on ChatGPT and make a book cover or Midjourney or whatever other AI softwares you want to use, do not use basic commands. You are the designer. You need to understand every single design element that it takes for a high quality professional book cover. And then you want to separate that and ask ChatGPT for its opinion on every single design element. And then you're going to take each individual design element and put it all together. You're not going to say, give me a book cover, get that book cover, slap it on KDP, and then come to me and say, hey, my book is not selling. Obviously, it's not selling. You don't have the skills to make your book sell. You need the skills. You're not going to make a book sell without the skills. But anyway, go out there and make a bunch of money.